Proposed cause number 24-437 in the interest of Elaine Jones Nowakowski et al. In the 451st Judicial District Court of Kendall County, Texas. Court is streaming outside of Kendall County. Are there any objections?
No, Judge.
Okay. Ms. Thompson, would you please begin the announcements?
Jessica Thompson for the department.
Claire Weidman, Permanency Specialist for Belong.
Ashley Crouch, Permanency Supervisor for Belong.
Jennifer Harris, attorney for respondent mother, Ms. Domagowski. Michaela, can you unmute and say your name, please?
Mother of the children, Michaela Domagowski.
Looks like we're missing Miss Mance and Miss Fuller.
Ms. Mance let me know that she thinks she's in the waiting room for the correct docket.
I think she's in the waiting room for the incorrect docket. I don't have her here.
I'll text Deborah.
Thank you. Yeah, Miss Crouch, do you let her know? I'm not sure where she is, but I don't have her in this waiting room. Thank you. Anybody who hasn't announced, Mr. Jones, could you please unmute and announce?
Alante Jones, father of the children.
Thank you, sir.
Marcus McLemore, Hill Country Casa. Margaret, can you unmute and announce, please?
Margaret Tompkins, Casa for the children.
I've got Keena's iPhone. Does anybody know who that is?
She's the foster mom.
Okay, thank you. All right, we've got Miss Mance with us. Miss Mance, could you announce for me, please? You're muted.
Lucinda Mance for Mr. Jones. I think he may be there. There may have been some confusion on the link, but I am ready for permanency.
He's here. He just announced. Ms. Fuller, if you can hear me, could you please unmute and announce?
Deborah Fuller, attorney ad litem for the children, Your Honor. Ready?
Thank you. All right, so we've got an initial permanency hearing as well as a motion to withdraw set today, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
No, I've spoken with my client. We will be dropping the motion to withdraw.
Okay. So the motion to withdraw is dropped, and we'll just proceed with the initial permanency hearing. Okay. All right, then. Anyone who's not an attorney or will be giving testimony, please raise your right hand. Mr. Jones, Mr. Domagowski, you can all please raise your right hands. Do each of you swear or affirm? Ms. Domagowski, can you raise your right hand? Thank you. Do each of you swear or affirm the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Thank you. You can put your hands down. All right, Ms. Weidman, is there any Indian child heritage in this case?
There's not.
All right, what's our permanency goal at this time?
The primary permanency goal is family reunification, and the concurrent goal is relative or fictive kin adoption.
And where are the children placed at this time?
They're currently placed in Bexar County with some foster parents.
What was the date of that placement?
It was October 22nd.
Is that placement safe and appropriate in meeting their needs?
It is.
Is it in their best interest to remain there at this time?
I believe so.
What is the cause for the hesitation?
We are currently looking at placement with paternal grandfather, and it is pending agreement of parties on whether they would move there.
Is the home study, is it looking good so far with the grandfather?
I'm unsure if it's been officially signed. We did complete a home study and initially denied it, based on his association with, or he provided names of supports that did have extensive criminal history with drugs. And given this case, we were concerned about that. And so we did ask him to complete a hair follicle test, which he did. It came back negative. Since then, the CASA and Miss Fuller and Belong have met with him to share any concerns. Belong was pleased with his responses and requested that he do the work to find a daycare, to find medical providers, to provide us with some backup caregivers. I have done the background checks for 3 out of the 4 background or backup caregivers. They have come back clean and approved by Ms. Crouch. So at this time, we're just waiting on the agreement of the parties.
Okay, I need to ask a couple clarifying questions to make sure I understand. So there was a preliminary that was denied, or the actual home study was denied?
The actual home study was denied with the understanding that if he completed a negative hair follicle test, we would reconsider placement.
No, I understand. Okay. Thank you. And you said paternal or maternal?
This is paternal grandfather.
Okay. And I don't know, I'm sure you sent it out, but for whatever reason, I didn't get a report. That's why I'm asking so many questions right now. And have you received any potential objections at this time? Or do you feel as if that the parties are moving towards placement with the paternal grandfather?
Belong is an agreement of placement. The attorney ad litem for the children in CASA still have some concerns, but I don't want to speak to exactly what their current concerns are for that.
Okay, I'll hear from them. Strike that. Are Isaac and Elaine both up to date on their checkups?
They are.
Any concerns medically?
They continue to have frequent medical appointments for sinus issues and allergies. They did see an allergist yesterday, which the foster parents reported it was mostly just paperwork, and the next appointment would be for allergy testing in January.
Any other issues?
No, those are the only medical issues.
Are they receiving any medications?
They're both on Zyrtec, 2.5 milligram or milliliters.
Do you believe that the plan to deal with the allergies in January, that all that's being handled appropriately? Or are you asking for any other orders?
I think it's being handled appropriately. Mr. Jones has some concerns about the allergy testing and thinking that that would be traumatic for the kids based on his personal experience. So we still need to discuss that with him.
Okay. Are both parents visiting with the children?
Each of them, their last visitation that they attended was in September. They've each had one visit.
What's the reason for that?
For Mr. Jones and Mr. Mogalski, transportation, they both reside in Dallas right now, and transportation halfway has been difficult for them to find.
Okay, and have you discussed this with them?
I have. I have had a conversation with Alante Jones and his attorney about making sure that we schedule the visits far in advance so that he can find transportation. For November, his visit was scheduled at the end of October for mid-November, and he still was not able to find transportation. He does have a visit tomorrow, but I have not received confirmation if he's attending.
Okay. Do they both have a copy of their family plan of service?
They do.
Have you gone over that with them since our last hearing?
Yes, I have.
So you believe that they are aware that this regular visitation and keeping that bond with their children is part of their service plan?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know if they have any intentions to move closer to the child, or if any of that's been discussed as far as the geographic barrier we have here?
My understanding is that they are hopeful that the case can be moved to Dallas County.
Okay. Have parties discussed that?
Have our parties discussed that? Belong would be in favor of that. I wouldn't want to speak to the other, to Casa or Deborah.
Okay. Are the parents complying with the family plan of service?
I would say Mr. Jones is in partial compliance and Ms. Domagowski is not compliant.
What is Mr. Domagowski lacking, or sorry, Mr. Jones lacking that puts him into partial compliance besides the visitation?
He has not been consistently drug testing when I send him. Let's see. He has begun counseling. Visitation is a big one that he hasn't been attending that. He has not obtained housing that he feels is suitable for the children to return to. He is currently unemployed. I mean, he is in partial compliance, and I can speak to why I said partial if you'd like.
So he's engaged in some services, but he hasn't shown that he can provide a safe, stable, violence, and drug-free home.
Correct.
Okay. And what about Ms. Domagowski? What is she lacking?
She has not completed inpatient. She also lacks safe and appropriate housing, has not obtained employment. She has attended one therapy session that I have documentation for, and that was on November 6th. She reported that she did start parenting yesterday, so I don't have documentation of that yet. She has not been attending her visits. She was referred for an OSAR on November 7th, but the OSAR office says that she has not set up an appointment. She hasn't provided me documentation of attendance to AA or any meetings, has not drug tested consistently. So that's why I would say she's not in compliance.
Do you believe that Belong has made all necessary reasonable efforts?
Yes, I do.
Anything that you want to add besides what you've already testified to?
I do think it's important to note that Ms. Domagowski was recently hospitalized for liver failure. She has since gotten out of the hospital. I don't have the exact dates on that, but it was very recent that she got out. She reports undergoing dialysis for her kidneys, and I'm still waiting on the paperwork from her hospitalization, but it was very serious.
Okay. Despite the reasonable efforts that Belong has made, do you believe that it's unsafe to return the child to either parent?
I do.
Do you believe it's necessary for the children to remain in the temporary management conservatorship of Belong?
Yes, I do.
Are you asking for any other orders today?
I'm not.
Are you asking for any changes to the visitation plan?
I would like it to remain the same if the kids stay in Bexar County. I think if the kids get moved to Dallas, I think the party should reevaluate the frequency and duration of visitation.
Thank you. Ms. Thompson, questions for Ms. Wyman?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Whiteman, the parents' visitation in September, how was the visitation with the kids?
The visitation for both parents was appropriate. They brought the necessary supplies, diapers, wipes, food to the visit.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor. Pass on the witness.
Ms. Harris?
Video visits occurring?
No visits are currently, video visits are currently occurring.
If transportation is impossible for my client, do you think it would be appropriate to have some video visits instead of the in-person?
I don't think it would be in the children's best interest given their response to the video visits that we previously did in prior to the last hearing.
But in-person visits you think would be appropriate?
I do.
And you think that they should, you said it should be reconsidered if the kids are moved to Dallas. Is that because you think they should happen more frequently, more regularly?
Yes, I would be open to that. The drive is just very hard on the children.
And since Miss Domagowski's hospitalization, has she been in more frequent contact with you?
She has.
And has she expressed a desire to take this seriously now?
Yes, she has.
And are all the referrals in place for her to be able to do all of her services?
Yes, they are.
No further questions, Judge.
Ma'am?
Yes, some of the issues with drug testing are actually scheduling and lost samples, correct?
Since the last hearing, there have been no lost samples. Mr. Jones has reported showing up to the drug testing facility and the office being closed.
And that was on a drug test that was scheduled same day?
I don't recall the exact times that I sent him for all of the drug tests. It's happened a few times.
But he's gotten over there as quickly as he could after work?
When he was employed, yes, that's what he reported.
And regarding his employment, he's been fairly consistent with working, correct?
Well, I never received any pay stubs or income verification. I received 1 week's schedule, and that was a little bit after the last hearing.
So what is the most important thing that he needs to get done between now and the next hearing?
I would say that drug testing is extremely important. Engage in his substance abuse services, continue going to counseling, begin his anger management and domestic violence classes, and provide me with a certificate of completion for his parenting class.
And all those referrals have been done?
Yes, they have.
And you provided that information to him?
Yes.
All right. And how soon do you think you will have a decision on placement of the children with his father?
I don't think I can provide an exact timeline today because it is dependent upon the agreement of the attorney ad litem and CASA.
And what's the holdup there, if you know?
I don't have exact reasons, and I'd prefer not to testify on their concerns.
All right, I'll pass, Judge.
Ms. Fuller?
Ms. Weideman, you said that Mr. Jones is in partial compliance, but basically he's not employed as far as you know. He doesn't have stable housing. He's not drug testing. He's not visiting. Maybe he went to one counseling session. So how is he in partial compliance and the mother is not in compliance? It seems like neither one of them is in compliance with the services.
So Mr. Jones started therapy on September 11th and has been attending weekly since that point. His therapist reports that he is engaged in therapy. He has remained communicative with me in terms of starting his substance abuse services, domestic violence, and anger management.
But communicating with you and providing you proof, I mean, do you have counseling notes from his counselor?
I do.
Okay. And what is the counselor recommending?
She recommends continued therapy. She says that he is very engaged.
I'm going to object because she's testifying as to hearsay, Judge.
Rephrase, Ms. Fuller. Sustained.
Have you had discussions with the counselor?
I have.
And in your discussions with the counselor, what has she told you about Mr. Jones?
That he is engaged in his therapy sessions, that he has only missed one.
Judge, again, this is just hearsay asked a different way. It's the same thing.
Your Honor, I mean, it only benefited her client, but I'll strike the question. In regards to Mr. Jones, has he had negative drug tests and when was the last positive?
Let's see. His UAs and his one hair that he completed have all been positive for marijuana. All of his UA ETGs have been negative for alcohol.
Okay. But marijuana, it was the issue with Mr. Jones, the concern in the beginning of the case, correct?
Yes.
And so that issue has not been alleviated?
No.
And so did he do the OSAR?
He did complete the OSAR.
And what was the recommendation?
They recommended intensive outpatient for cannabis use disorder.
And has he been attending intensive outpatient?
He was referred to outpatient.
Is he attending?
Hakata started his services on 12/6, December 6th, and he did attend.
So he started last week. We're 6 months into the case, Ms. Weideman, and he started last week?
Yes.
Okay. In regards to Mr. Jones, Cedric Jones, we had a meeting with Mr. Jones, correct?
Correct.
And it's your statement today that all the individuals except one you were able to do the background checks on?
Yes.
And that was one of the biggest issues due to his work schedule, the backup caregivers, correct?
Yes.
I mean, and there were some issues with the apartment itself. Have you had an opportunity to go to the apartment, make sure that all the issues with the apartment have been corrected in regards to like the carpet, the holes in the walls, things of that nature?
I have not. The home assessor did go. We provided them with those concerns and they did not have concerns.
Okay. Did they show you photos of where things were corrected in his home?
They did provide us pictures. I would have to check back to see if all holes were corrected.
And so in regards to the other concern was that Mr. Alante Jones, when they did the original home study or did the removal in the previous case, there was bongs in the home and he lived with his father, correct?
When I went in August, I observed a bong in Alante Jones's closet.
Okay. And do you feel that Mr. Cedric Jones understands the concerns of all the parties in this case?
Yes, I do.
And how far does Alante and Michaela live from Mr. Jones, Cedric Jones?
About a mile.
Okay. Is it the same apartment complex or a different apartment complex?
It is a different apartment complex.
Okay. But they live together, correct? Michaela and Alante? Okay. So do you have any concerns whatsoever about Mr. Cedric Jones's ability to be protective with his son and Michaela living so close to him?
I don't.
Okay. And so it's the department's belongs recommendation that the children be placed with Mr. Cedric Jones?
Yes.
Were you going to wait for that last background check or not?
I have received the information to run that background check. I just need to run it. But those three all came back clean.
Okay. Pass the witness.
Redirect, Ms. Thompson.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Anybody else have any other questions for Ms. Weideman?
Yes, Judge.
Go ahead.
Do you think it would be in the children's best interest to be placed with their paternal grandfather?
I do.
No further questions.
Any other recross?
No, Judge.
Any other witnesses, Ms. Thompson?
No, Your Honor.
Does anyone else have a witness to call?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your
Okay, Ms. Fuller?
Your Honor, I was just waiting for confirmation to make sure that all the backup caregivers had passed the background checks, and I was hoping to get some confirmation on the home environment itself. It doesn't sound like, I mean, I feel like Belong needs to make that trip and be able to tell us, you know, the status of the home. We did have a meeting with Mr. Cedric Jones, and I felt he was very forthcoming, and he is very interested in taking care of his grandchildren. I would just like those things followed up with prior to giving my consent. The children are doing well in their placement, and you know, the allergy issue has been ongoing since the court ordered services case. But the last time I saw them was actually the first time I saw them that they didn't have runny noses. So I think something's going right, but I understand Mr. Alante Jones's concerns about the allergy testing. He went through a traumatic experience as a child when he was tested. So I think that's something we all need to talk about and see what they could possibly do to help alleviate his concerns about the testing. But they do have pretty serious allergies. I think they're safe in their placement right now, but I would like to relook at Mr. Cedric Jones so we could discuss possibly sending the children up there, because I don't think the parents are going to be able to visit with the children being here, being in Bexar County, and them living in Dallas. And I think that's detrimental to the children.
Thank you, Ms. Fuller. Ms. Tompkins?
I actually just am new to the case, just visited with the children on the 8th of December. It might be more helpful for my supervisor to address questions.
Okay, Mr. McLemore?
Yes, sir. I'm in alignment with Deborah on that. I do have concerns about placement with Mr. Jones. I would like Belong to walk through the home and just verify that the repairs have been made and that the roach infestation was taken care of. We did have concerns too because there was fist-sized holes in the wall. So we just wanted to walk through the home and make sure that it's appropriate before we agree to the placement there.
What's the explanation for the fist holes in the wall, or fist-sized holes?
We weren't given an explanation on that. We were explained that there was a water leak for the other holes in the home, and the rips in the carpet was due to a puppy and some of the other issues. And I understand that Mr. Jones had tried to address the roach issue, but the apartment complex doesn't do anything about it. And I believe Mr. Cedric Jones and Alante were trying to take care of the roach problem themselves, but we haven't had an update on that.
Okay.
And Your Honor, I would just also ask if we come to an agreement on moving the children, the parents need to understand they cannot be in the home with the children. Their visits need to be supervised, because that is a concern. They live very close to him and he works a lot. So there'll be other caregivers taking care of the children. And the parents need to understand that it will still be supervised visitation and that they cannot be in the home with the children.
All right. This is a completely separate issue, but have the lawyers discussed jurisdiction and whether or not transfer would be appropriate? I don't think so. Okay.
We haven't discussed it, Your Honor, but I think we should discuss it because I think it, in my opinion, it would probably be appropriate if the children are moved up there.
Okay.
And Judge, my client has a request. We're asking that all of these things with the possible placement be taken care of in the next week. These kids need to be moved before Christmas. They need to be with family. Mr. Jones was put forward at the very beginning of this case, and we're now 6 months in. I understand that, you know, follow-up needed to be done after the initial home study, but this has taken a long time, and it's not fair for these kids to not be with their family for Christmas. So we ask that this stuff be taken care of in the next week. and everybody make their decisions so this can happen.
Anybody else have anything?
Yes, Judge, I agree with Ms. Harris. I think as far as my client, a lot of the issues that he has had with compliance are really because he's in Dallas and kids are in Bexar County. It makes any visitation for him very, very difficult. He's tried to hold employment, but do his services as well. And there's just been some lack of communication and issues with the parents being so far. So I also ask that placement be before the Christmas holidays and that we sit down and talk about a motion to transfer. I think really it's in the best interest of the children to have this case up in Dallas area. Thank you.
All right, for the purposes of the initial permanency hearing, the court finds that there's no Indian child heritage. The permanency goal is family reunification. The concurrent goal is relative to victim kid adoption. Court finds that the children are currently placed in a Bexar County foster home. Court finds that that placement is safe and appropriate, and it's meeting their needs at this time. But obviously, if we have a family member who is approved and the concerns are addressed, then the current placement would cease to be appropriate. So I'm going to order belong within the next 7 days to address any and all placement concerns with Mr. Jones. And if all those checks and the other concerns that the parties had are followed up and there's a walkthrough completed and there's no other issues, then I'm going to order the kids to be placed with Cedric Jones. That again is based on all of those things coming to pass as it's been explained to me this morning. If there's some new issue or there's some new concern, it's verifiable. Obviously, that's going to change things. So I want to make myself very clear, as it's been testified to and presented to me this morning, we're just waiting on some I's to be dotted and some T's to be crossed. And as long as they are, the kids can be placed there. But I agree with Ms. Harris. I agree with Ms. Mance. It needs to be within the next 7 days because we are coming up on holidays. These children are placed in a foster home. And if we've got an appropriate family member, I'm bound by the code to place that child there unless there's a safety concern. And I'm not hearing one right now. I'm just hearing that we have maybe some issues we need to take care of. So there's an appropriate family member. That's where we have to go. We have to go there post haste. We can't take our time on it. Court finds that the children are up to date on their checkups. Their allergy issues are being addressed. I'm going to order the parties to staff how to address that. If they're suffering from allergies that are affecting their quality of life, then I think, a lot of times the argument is, well, whatever risks or issues we have to go through to figure out what's causing that allergy may be worth it, but y'all need to talk about it and figure it out. I don't know how bad the allergies are actually affecting their quality of life, and so that needs to be something that's on the table. If they're constantly sneezing and sniffling and suffering from something, and it doesn't wane at any point in the day, then that's obviously something that needs to be addressed. I'm going to find at this time they are up to date on their checkups. They're taking Zyrtec, and that at this point the allergy issue has been appropriately addressed. But again, you'll need to staff it. We're going to find that both parents have a copy of their family plan of service. It's been reviewed with them. I'll find that the father's in partial compliance. It's minimal, Mr. Jones. You still have a lot of work to do. And I'll find that Ms. Domagowski is not in compliance, but I'm also going to make a finding that both parties have had a 5-hour geographical issue to deal with in this case. And then Ms. Domagowski has also had some issues with her illness. That being said, Mr. Jones and Ms. Domagowski, I need you to understand you're running out of time. So these things are factors that I understand that have us here at this point, this time in the case, but it doesn't excuse you from getting to work and getting these things accomplished. You still have to do that. I want to make that very clear. That has to be done in order for you to show that you can provide a safe, stable, violence and drug-free home. One of the things I want to do is get your children closer to you. And I've just made that order. The other thing I want to do is make sure that you can make your visits. I've just made that order as well. Your kids are going to be closer. You should be able to make your visits. There are buses in Dallas. I used to live in Dallas. There's plenty of public transportation. You can get there. And you can get into compliance, full compliance, as long as you do the things that you're supposed to do. Ms. Domogowski, one of the things that Ms. Weideman testified to is that you didn't complete inpatient. If there's still a drug issue, you have to complete inpatient. I'm ordering you to go. Because it doesn't matter if you do all of this other stuff. I've explained it to people before. You're still going to have an anchor around your leg. So you're trying to go through this service plan, which is akin to swimming, with an anchor tied to your leg, and it doesn't work. You will not be successful that way if you're dealing with an addiction. You need to be in recovery, not active use, okay? Especially if you've got health issues. That's the worst thing you can do to yourself. And I want to see you do well. I want to see you succeed here. So you got to take care of yourself. I'm going to find that Belong has made reasonable efforts by working with the parents, staying in communication with them, working on this home study with Mr. Cedric Jones, developing and providing a family plan of service, reviewing that with them, and then also providing visitations. But I'm going to make a finding as well that it's unsafe to return the children to either parent today because despite those reasonable efforts, we still have concerns, and it's in the best interest for the children to remain in the temporary managed and conservatorship of Belong. I think I've made all the orders I need to make and all the findings I need to make. I have to give you the admonishment that the state of Texas gives parents in CPS cases 12 months to demonstrate that you can provide a safe, stable, violence and drug-free home. If you can't do that in the 12 months, then your rights to your children are subject to restriction or termination. Your 12-month period began on July 29th, 2024. Your dismissal date on this case is August the 4th, 2025. Okay? Currently, we're set for trial on June 11th of 2025. So Belong is going to be looking at you having your, all of your services completed, all your issues and concerns addressed. They're going to be looking for that to happen sometime around April, March or April probably. Because if not, we're going to be preparing for a trial in June. So the clock's ticking. All right. I'm also going to find that you both remain indigent for the purposes of this case and maintain the appointment of your attorneys.
Your Honor, could you admonish them about contact if the children are moved? Sorry.
No, it's okay. Thank you for the reminder. When the children are placed with Mr. Jones, the worst thing that either one of you can do is have an unauthorized visit with the children. Because what you might do is cause Belong or the ad litem or CASA or the department to think, well, you know what, we can't trust Cedric Jones because he's allowing Ms. Domogowski or Alante Jones to have unauthorized contact with the children. And it doesn't matter if you show up there unannounced or not. If there's nobody else there, then the assumption is going to be that it's not safe for the kids to be there anymore, and they're going to get moved back into foster care. So don't do that. Don't do anything that's unauthorized in person, by text, by video, by phone. Follow the rules, and the more you comply with things and the more safe everybody believes this is, then the more contact we're going to be able to provide for you. And that's where we need to go with this case. That's what needs to happen. So you need to have more consistent contact, but you've got to put in the work and you've got to follow the orders. Okay. Anything else I failed to address?
No, yeah.
Okay. I have high hopes. I do. And I hope that both of you can get the work done and we can make this a reunification case. Thank you all for your time and your service. If nothing further, all parties are excused.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.